Number 15. Burger King foot lettuce. The last thing you'd want in your Burger King burger is someone else's foot fungus, but that just might be what you get. RWBY. It's action-packed, it's mysterious, it's sexy. Well, at least that's what YouTube has taught me. And most importantly, Volume 7 has just come out and you goofs want to know if it's worth your time.
But Sparky, I already watched the first 6 volumes. I just want to know about sugar.
Yes, you should. RWBY is an anime-inspired American-made series originally created by Monty Ohm. Fun fact that you probably never knew, it's made by Rooster Teeth. I really couldn't tell the first time through. It's also in Smite and BlazBlue. The show was created by Monty Ohm, written by Miles Luna and Carrie Shawcross, with Eddie Rivas and Kiersey Burkhart taking over for Volume 7. That is a lot of information, and just as a disclaimer, I'm going to straight up call this an anime for the rest of the video. Authentic or not, a plate of spaghetti made in Australia is still Italian food. This anime follows RWBY, the team, led by the main character Ruby the girl, who is the same color as a ruby the gem, who go to a school called Bacon Academia where they train to fight the creatures of Grimm, a la Soul Eater. And then at the same time, there is this growing racial tension between furries and the rest of the world. And if that's not interesting as fuck, I don't know what is. Eventually, the girls stop doing school and start hunting down a lady, but who gives a shit? Look at this. If you were to look up style over substance in the dictionary, keyframes of a fight from RWBY would be plastered over the next 10 pages because who gives a fuck about words? This series is YouTube fight animations, the show, and shit dude, that's like my second favorite genre of internet video. And to be crystal clear and 100% honest, these fights are fucking good. It's like watching a competitive Street Fighter or Smash tourney with things like combos, aerials, and all that high energy goodness. I mean hell, the creator of this show is the same guy who fit a 2-minute long take action scene into a Halo machinima based on dick jokes and made it work. But an issue does arise when looking at the story of RWBY. Because of the hulking focus on high energy fight scenes, the plot can take a bit of a backseat. At times it feels like a series of excuses just to get to the next fight, and this isn't even you have to pay attention and notice type issue. In Volume 1, this problem is very prominent. The short episodes don't give too much breathing room to let the characters and plot do their thing. I mean, some of the times they come up with creative ideas to get certain people in certain places alone, and sometimes they're just kind of like, fuck it.
You two go on ahead. This one's mine. You go on ahead. Got it.
As well as just all the new shit being introduced all the time. It's like they just add stuff because they think it was cool. Alright guys, I think I actually found out who the enemy's identity truly is, as well as I figured out where their base of operation is, and why they're also connected to the terrorist organization that wants racial equality. All this while doing my schoolwork and being a top tier student. Yeah, but the prom's tomorrow, and you still don't know how to walk in high heels! What? I'm not even saying the writing's bad either, it's just inconsistent at times. I mean, how can I, in good faith, say a show has bad writings when it has scenes like this? I mean, look at this. No words, nothing, but the emotions of this character are palpable. If the entire show were as good as this one scene, no question this would be my favorite anime. But it's not, and that's the issue. It's inconsistent in how good it is. It's like listening to freeform jazz. You're most definitely gonna have moments with, I don't know about that, Mr. Trumpet, but willing to excuse it because fuck me, Mr. Keyboard. I'm pretty sure this is the best piece of music I've heard in my entire life. I mean, I'm kind of drunk, but anyway. All in all, it's just shonen writing, the good parts of shonen writing and the bad parts. But there are other examples in RWBY that are able to separate it from the crowd. The characters in the show have a ton of personality. The characterization of each and every person inside the RWBY world is really well done. From the first few lines that anyone says, you can get a really good feel for the personality and what kind of character they are. Yet on the flip side, they don't stay flat. I mean, obviously, the show's in 3D. They act like humans a lot of the time. Funny girl has more than being funny, and bratty girl has more than being a bratty girl in every scene. But each has their side and their defining features come out when it's needed, kind of like IRL. From each introduction, it seems like a character will be just an archetype, but they use this as a baseline for how they act and then expand on each one. Mostly. Though the biggest issue is that the characters will just show up and leave, and that's kind of it. Like they thought this was just kind of cool and have the person here for the hell of it. Finally, I get to kill a Schnee. Who the fuck are you, dude? Second, and what I think is more important, is the animation. It just sets this show apart from any other. Japanese animation in general is about saving a lot of time with animation in certain sections, then being able to spend more time on Sakuga. But what if you throw the anime aesthetic into a production company located in the country where the baseline for good animation quality is fucking Disney, where the same amount of in-between frames and urgency are given to talking and action? I'll tell you what, you get some funky shit, dude. It feels like I'm watching a passion project, like everyone involved had the same level of commitment and stake in the series. It looks and feels like everyone involved is just in love with the animation and the process behind it and watched it and made sure it wasn't boring. That might not be the case, but it's the result. It feels played with, going between different types of animation styles and methods, like viewing a good-ass portfolio and seeing how the artist plays with different methods, paints, and styles, yet still keeps it visually their art. So despite the inconsistencies and flaws the show's had, I would actually recommend it. Honestly, the complaint about how the creators seemingly add things for the hell of it doesn't take away too much, and it keeps it charming. But if you're not really into it by the end of the second episode, it's not for you, which is fine considering the episodes and trailers are pretty short. By the way, you have to watch the trailers, they're like mini episodes. So go ahead and give it a try for a bit. It might be worth it, is what I would say if only volume 1 through 3 existed. Like I said, RWBY was made by Montiome, who was an absolute mad lad committed to working, to the point where he would just sleep under his desk at times, but tragically he passed away during the production of volume 3. And as much as I would like to say they just left the anime alone after volume 3, they continued the series, and as much as I would also like to say it didn't affect the show, it did. I mean, imagine a Ghibli movie without Miyazaki, a Tarantino film without Tarantino. That's how I would describe the following volumes of RWBY. They're doable, but they're just not the same. Though I think to properly explain what's up with these following volumes, I'll have to talk about Bollywood of all things. Bollywood is the world's largest film industry. It's Indian films that largely focus on color, dance, and bombastic scenes. Well, I mean, at least that's what my professor told me in a lecture I barely remember. Hey, in my defense, the idea of Indianness in a film is almost impossible to define. Bollywood is such a case of Hollywood imperialism, but at the same time isn't. Listen, I don't think there's a way to explain it better than Rosie Thomas did. There's been both inspiration and assimilation from Hollywood and elsewhere, but thematically and structurally, Indian cinema has remained remarkably distinctive. Cultural syncretism is what happens when two cultural things come together and are able to create something new, and that's what Bollywood is. It's Western capitalism portrayed by Indians in their own way. Get it? Alright, let's look at another example. Well, let's just take Japanese aesthetic and apply them to like an American anime. Wait. Yes, well, it's very easy to compare and contrast RWBY to other anime counterparts. It's very much its own thing based on the amount of stark and purposeful differences it takes to regular anime.
I guess the first thing that hits people with this is like the art style, which everyone calls it cell shading. It's not a term I'm a fan of, because cell shading implies this technology that was somehow invented, that's chosen to emulate a style. To me, it's just within my system, I just hit a few switches and it looks like this. It's not a phenomenal amount of technology. To be completely honest, technology doesn't grow. We just use it better. So like me doing this was just, let me just try something different.
And this clip shows that it's all thanks to Mr. Ohm, who wasn't satisfied with just making another anime. So what happens when this man is no longer a part of the show? You just turn it into something more generic. And while the animation and art look more in depth, it loses its character. I'll explain with an example. Raven. Raven's this really cool and mysterious red and black person. I mean, like, she wears red and black. I think she's Asian, I'm not sure. But for a while, she only does one thing, but it can stick out in your mind because of how cool she looked doing it, and her design, because holy shit, look how cool that girl is. Eventually, she mentions a tribe and her people in different parts of the show, and holy shit, a collection of people who are based off her? Maybe it's like a mixture of like Native American and Japanese aesthetics, and it's all like tied together with like the red and black like kind of colors. Nope, just Google Bandit and use the first fucking row of images as your fucking design. Weirdly enough, the show that seemed to value form over function kept a function over form design and philosophy when it came to characters. They were simple yet competent. They used their colors to contrast themselves with the environment while having a weird fantasy contemporary style. Now look at fucking Weiss in volume 4 and 5. She blends in with every background. Darker and muted means more grown up, right? That's just a character design. While there are really cool parts, the animation can just feel sluggish at times. It's really cool that they made the mocap less obvious in these later volumes, but it feels off. This could be for a variety of things too. They do use a different program. Maybe they rely too heavily on the automated in-between frames that 3D programs give you. But I think it's just that they never learned how to copy Montiome's animation style. There's this big long diatribe written by an ex-worker that has to do with how people who wanted to keep the show Monty were like given the guillotine or something. I don't actually know. That whole thing is a can of worms, and last time I checked, I'm not a fucking fisherman. But despite my willful ignorance on the issue, it's very obvious that the people who work on the show now didn't have nor never had the time to develop a way to match the animation style properly. And there are traces of this in volume 3 as well. Everything can feel so stop and go as opposed to the earlier bits that had a nice momentum to it. And it just gets worse and worse as we go on. For every holy fucking shit moment in the later volumes, you get a shing, 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 bang, bang. Swoosh, why are you doing this? Swoosh, Salem, I don't care about Salem. I mean, even if you look at the previous volumes and trailers, there are parts where the action will just stop. But it's for us to breathe and still keeps a feeling of that forward momentum. It all has a nice flow to it, and I think that's in part because Monty Oum himself admitted that he's not a fight choreographer, but a dancer. And this is not an issue I can just explain away either. Just do a drifting holding W diagonal B hop, then hit this ramp and you'll be getting the animation of RWBY just right. It's a feeling type thing, like a specific rapper's flow or watching someone freestyle dance. Which also is probably why the earlier volumes slap so hard with their fucking soundtrack. Like, holy shit, I can jerk RWBY's soundtrack off to oblivion and back. I can sing its praises for eternity, but I'm just gonna let this clip show you how good it fits with the fucking show. Legit, just go buy the soundtracks right now. Straight up listen to them right now. I'm serious. I am not memeing. Go on Twitter and tell Casey Lee Williams she's a fucking epic bro. I think that, I don't know. I would say on like the, I accidentally tweeted. Okay. But sadly, as these volumes and fights go on being less and less dance-oriented, the soundtrack isn't used in a manner that's as effective as it once was. So with the cracks in the makeup coming up, we can actually see the show's face with a clear eye. What? The story isn't that good. I can't lie about that. It's not bad per se, but with the juggling of multiple storylines at once, the writing is stretched to its very limits, and while it doesn't break, it doesn't stretch with all that much grace. Going back to Bollywood, a quote about the famous movie Mother India goes, "If taken seriously at all, the film was subject to criticism according to the canons of Western realism," which makes almost no fucking sense because they didn't know nor tried to follow these canons. I believe RWBY follows this sentiment. When looked at without the otherness that Bollywood bleeds, the films would be under heavy critical scrutiny. And now that RWBY seemingly has lost the otherness that it had, which did not protect it but instead differentiated it, RWBY is really just another anime. A basic bitch, normie, cringe-ass anime that doesn't bring that much to the table. My personal biggest issue with the writing now is just that the characters don't seem to have any personal motivation or stakes in the plot anymore. As we go on and the focus becomes more and more about the world these girls inhabit, I have to ask myself, why are they doing this thing? The entire first 3 volumes only happened because these girls are devoted and interested on what's going on around them. They refuse to wait and let someone else deal with the issues based on their own motivations, but now they just kind of do stuff because it's the right thing to do. Though I guess when it all comes down to it, you're probably just looking for me to say watch it or don't watch it. And while I myself am already fully enchanted with this series, and even though volume 6 was actually really good, I can't bring myself to say go and watch it. Like, how can I feel confident in myself suggesting something to you that is now only just ordinary when the extraordinary is out there and waiting to be discovered? I mean, hell, if you're really curious, you can watch this show on Crunchyroll, RWBY, Rooster Teeth, the website, and even YouTube, though I would heavily suggest that you avoid the RT site, as it's kind of a mess to navigate, and apparently they don't pay their fucking animators? Yikes. Wait. Okay, so I kind of feel bad just using all your time here to say don't bother, so right now I'm just going to suggest things to you to see with your eye holes. It's very obvious that RWBY was inspired by Soul Eater, and for good reason. Soul Eater is really fucking cool and you can watch that. A show coming out right now by the same writer is also a good choice, Fire Force. And while it doesn't have the cool video gamey fighty styles, the animations and fights are fucking gorgeous and super high energy. I would also heavily recommend Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood to you if you were into that later world building and split up stories of 4 through 6, and I would also suggest Avatar: The Last Airbender for the same reasons. Okay, here's the real ending. Hey, thanks for watching my dumbest video. Most of the music in this was either made by Mare or in the soundtrack of RWBY, and you can go check out all of Mare's music in the description right below. I'll put a link for his stuff in there. You can all listen to it for free. Please go ahead and tell me what you thought of the video down below, and if you like it, go ahead and tell your fucking friends about it. Show them. Link them at. Please, dear God, I worked hard on this. Tell me also what you think about RWBY down below, and if you have any other shows like it, please post those, because God, I'm itching for some high energy action.